Hi folks, I'm going to be giving a talk with some slides today, which I'm looking forward to. So let me just share a screen here and we will get off and running. So AI Expo Africa, it's great to be here. We have a booth as well, do drop in. I'm going to run through some slides quite quickly, he says, starting a timer. Let's see where we go. Now, conversational AI is the point of this conversation. It's almost cyclical. The description that we put in for this talk was the state of the art now and looking forward through 40 years of experience, which is sort of the essence of AI, which sort of begs the question, if you're working on the back of what's historical to predict what's coming, then where's the intelligence? Hopefully some intelligence will come from this presentation. So let me introduce myself. I am Phil D. Hall. I've been working in conversational AI since 1982. I built my first chatbot on a ZX Spectrum, at the tender age of 19 years of age. Right now, I work with a group of associates to build, consult, and train. There's 3 of our systems that I'm going to show as part of case studies today. The Elzware system itself is more about method, but I'm going to show some working elements from the Fuse system. We have the Teachbot system as well, and I'll explain as we go forward. The Echoboard's a bit of fun. We'll come to that at the end. So firstly, though, I'd just like to do a little bit of history. Now, when you start with history in chatbots or conversational AI, you could start at Alan Turing, you could start with Joseph Weizenbaum, you could talk about the AI winters that have happened, and so on. The AI cycle which we're in right now, I think, has got these 5 steps. So in 2000, which is when I first started looking at email response management systems, there was probably 20 or so companies in the world, and barely that were doing this kind of conversational and natural language processing in real time. Lots of academic interest, but very tightly focused. The end of the last AI winter killed off pretty much all of the international AI research. 2004, it was all about community. 2009, as a line in the sand, social media came in and just rolled over everything, fire hoses of information and all the problems that have come from such, as we know. 2011, I've put that line as sort of big data started. I mean, it's a huge thing. We're forever hearing big data is the new oil, although realistically, big data is just dirt. There may be oil in it, there may be gold in it, but it's dirt at the end of the day. And 2007 is the big slap for me. Now, this shortish talk is part of a broader set of comments which Elzware is going to be doing. We called it the 39 steps on the basis that it's been 39 years since we started. I'm not going to read you through these points. I'm not going to read through any of the points, really. I'm just going to try and show you some stuff. If you want to keep an eye on how the 39 steps unfold, please do follow the Elzware side of Twitter. I'm also on Twitter, and you'll see that link at the end. But let's come to the nub of it, the state of the art. Yeah, the state of the art is going to be showing some real live systems. I didn't dig that hard. I sort of grabbed those that were across my screens at the moment. I do tend to spend an awful lot of time in screens on computers, as many of us do. HubSpot is an interesting organization. They've done quite a lot of stuff for sure. They're not the only players. They're not all small players. There's big tech like IBM or Microsoft or Google's systems that are public data sourced, which I think is one of those. I don't think that was actually sourced. I think that was possibly acquired. And then we've got open source systems as well, like Raza, who I'd like to think will be able to carry that open source flag, because without that, it's not possible sometimes to be able to make cost-effective conversational AI. But I also wanted to talk about revolution. Revolution. You see so much revolution in chatbots, revolution in AI. Gartner, our consultant folks, have been tracking 2,000 vendors, and bear in mind I said there was probably 20 years ago of any real sense. So What did we do? Well, we stopped really concentrating on trying to track them all. We just focused on delivering stuff, not selling smoke and mirrors. So I just grabbed a few revolutionizing CX with conversational AI kind of things. I do try and keep abreast of these to see whether there's any new methods. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be. A lot of them are based on big data and natural language understanding and TensorFlow constructs and such like. And this isn't a technical conversation though. So I grabbed these people, Ubicen. This is a British company. Revolution, that's why they ended up on these slides here. They have a chatbot on their website, which is good. So I said hello to it, and it ignored me. And I said hello again, and it thought, but it didn't come back to me. And eventually, I decided that I would try and hit one of those sort of gold standards. Can I speak to a human? If a chatbot can't allow you to talk to a human, if it doesn't have an effective handoff with some analysis of user type, which is of course ethical, or at least ethically constructed and controlled, then really it's not a particularly good chatbot. So unfortunately, the UbiBot didn't go very far. Now, I think they've had some reasonable investment, but other companies that have had significant investment, and I mean really significant investment, is Yellow.ai. I don't think I saw them before as Yellow Messenger, but $78.15 million is a significant amount of money to do some work on. So again, I lent in and had a word with their chatbot. This is what I get. Straight away, lots of quite easy sort of click-through stuff. So I said hello, and I got exactly the same thing. So it doesn't want to talk about hello, really. So I asked to talk to a human, and then the system started going sideways. It said that it was going to connect me to a conversational expert, and then that it couldn't help me, and so it's slightly overlap. I asked if it was confused. Doesn't understand. It has no layer apart from quite a skinny layer. But what I think was most disappointing with this random sort of interaction was that, whereas your conversational expert, it's trying to sell us a conversational expert, but it doesn't even understand those words. So hopefully their investment moves them into a position where they find a little bit more slickness. But let's lean into something a bit more heavy duty. Let's lean into the 12,959th website in the world, according to Alexa, drift.com. And they're talking all about conversational sales and conversational AI, and it's literally just buttons. And also from the EU, which is from where I'm based, if you don't accept their version of privacy, then you just don't even get in through the door, which is a bit sort of shocking. But let's go back a moment. This idea that conversational AI is something that is sort of metaphorically a conversation. It's like a marketeer's view. Let's have a conversation. These I think are not necessarily positive messages for us to be getting out into the world. So I think personally that conversational AI should be AI that you have a conversation with, however that works, whatever that method is. So anyhow, so I'm in Driftbot world. What came to the side? I clicked on I want to talk to a human, so it started triaging me. Still no free text input. Asked how big I was. That's probably a good thing. It came back with nice. I had no idea. I didn't test it whether it's nicer if I was bigger or smaller. And then a person came up. I've just yellow blocked out the people here because maybe they're real, maybe they're not. But that was all I got from this one. There was no way for me to answer the questions, which seems highly confusing. I'm not on I'm on a Chrome cloned browser. I'm on the Brave browser. Which is somewhere where people who are conscious of what's going on in the world tend to go to, I would say. So anyhow, I clicked out, I came back, I thought, let's have a look at the pricing. And lo and behold, a box popped up, and this one person from Drift was there to grab me and convert me, which is a good thing. And don't get me wrong, chatbots, when they're simple and transactional, are effective, assuming that the general public aren't beginning to get irritated by their lack of accuracy, which is we'll come to. But what confused me there, this hey triptease, where did that come from? I didn't even give it my name, so maybe it's humor. So, but let's go sideways for a moment. Let's look at something which is more likely to be conversational. Let's look at people-based systems. Yeah, I'd like to just bring attention to these two entities here. On the left-hand side, we have BlenderBot, made up from a 90 million parameter model, which cost squillions, I'm sure, and who knows where the data came from, but it's Facebook. 40,000 people turned up to talk, to watch this chatbot off between BlenderBot and Kuki. And Kuki is built by a guy called Steve Warswick. He's been building it for some decades in his spare time, pretty much, and more recently has done amazingly well. Has won the Liebner Prize as it stands, and he's working underneath a company called PandoraBots, run by a lady called Lauren Kunze, who does not pull any punches and is prepared to identify where the faults are, because there are faults in this market right now. What was interesting, of the 40,000 people who tuned in to watch this Kuki versus BlenderBot, 78% voted for Kuki over BlenderBot, and none of the other bots, the Minas or the other big players have stepped up. I mean, unfortunately, even good folks like Raza, last year they had their event, their big chatbot event, but there was no chatbot. It was one of those, you've got to sort of eat your own muesli or insert a food stuff. So I think the market is in a pickle. I think that what we need to do is we need to go up a level. Where we are focused on is healthcare and education. Entertainment we will come to, but the bit I wanted to pick out of here is the governance piece. And there's been some interesting movements recently from the European Council, not the Council of Europe, sorry, the Council of Europe, not the European Council, Council of Europe, which is Europe Plus. Yeah. I think this issue of what is and isn't governance and what isn't ethical is a moot point. I don't have a case study on that, though. Part of the association within Elzware does that kind of stuff, though, and I think you'll be able to meet Nicola if you pop by our booth later on. But I just picked up the governance, the Information Commissioner's Office details. So this is UK organisation. Lots going on. One of my network flagged me earlier on that there was confusion on this. These are some of the links within their website, some of the issues that they are kicking about right now. Bear in mind that there is a focus here within the UK, as many places in the world, on machine learning only as the definition of artificial intelligence. But unfortunately, those kind of rose-tinted glasses are missing a lot of expert system work that has been done historically. More importantly, are blanking out the ability for hybrid work, which is what Elzware has been doing for some years now, since we realized what the limitations were of the machine learning bubble. The bit that I think was most interesting in these links that the ICO had was auditing frameworks. How do you test what is going on? Accuracy and performance, absolutely. Natural language understanding in an expert system or a hybrid system is only a tiny piece. There's no smoke and mirrors. It's just software development, and that's it. Context matters, though. I think that's super useful. So let's move on, and let's do a little bit of an example. So this is a piece that was put in place 2008 to 2011 in the UK, very old browsers. Me in earlier days. Let's see what I said.
We're going to take a quick look at the floating menus. There's 3 of them built into this version of TeachBot: FAQs, glossary, and topics. So let's open up the FAQ section. You can see there's just 4 questions at the bottom of this tree structure and 4 branches going forwards. Let's click on the Getting Started side. you can see we now have just 3 clear, concise objectives. We won't go too far down that route. We'll now start driving into the reading and writing side. As you can see, there's a further layer in commenting and skills, but let's start in the FAQ reading. What's the difference between skimming and scanning? Good question. I don't know. I know the answer to that. When we click on it, it takes us directly into that area of the tree. So the question and answer relates to the FAQs and vice versa. Let's leave that as is. Let's open up the glossary. The glossary is a big, long menu for sure. It's something that people aren't necessarily going to be grazing through, but same functionality as before, allows us to click on any of these elements. But you can also query for these glossary terms directly through the interface. Final floating menu, topics. This is broken into reading and writing. This pulls us at the beginning of each of these topical areas, which is a nice, easy access. And of course, you can query these conversationally. These sidebars here are populated as people go through the learning to a point where they finish an area and then end up with green squares. That was one of the elements which we found from a trial in the north of Bristol. That's all for this section.
So what that was about was a system which we built based on the English reading and writing curriculum for the UK, Key Stage 3, Key Stage 4. So this is 11 to 16-year-olds. We did this piece of work in collaboration with local government, and we found that it was well received. It was built on hardware, which was a thing called an AMIO. And AMIO was before tablets, and really, I think the system that I just showed you there was an extension of on the basis of the systems we build now, quite a simple system, but it showed the logic and structure explicitly. Where we are now that we have voice inputs, of course, is that people can go into these trees and ontologies directly. But what was good about that was that we worked with an expert, a guy called Brian Webster. I hope his retirement is going well. He was a retired teacher and drama teacher, and we worked directly with him in a social scientific manner. I personally trained as an anthropologist before I moved into IT, and I like to carry these kind of methods and attitudes and respect for people as we go through the development cycle. So let me show you another piece. This one's more up to date here. The Gaia piece, I've not grabbed anything off today. We don't have that much time, unfortunately. The Gaia piece was prototyped in 2016, though. It was tied into the Internet of Things, so it had real-time sensors. It was tied in also to SMS and email, so it was able to draw information from a flow of conversation and then populate and pass out that into third parties, doctors or people's phones. I mean, particularly with the dementia side, it could feed over to people who were overseeing carers or people who were not able to be in the same vicinity. So that's a broader conversation. Healthcare has always been, as I think I said earlier on, quite a serious thing for us. Because it is outside of simple transactions. There's no such thing as a sort of a customer when people are feeling ill, and you have multiple comorbidities, which happens increasingly with people as they don't look after themselves. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to look a little bit at Fuse. So Fuse was an interdisciplinary research team at the University of the West of England in Bristol. We started it in 2018. Had some funding from there. The team was an interesting team. It was a good team. It was made up of a linguist, which I think is an essential part of somebody who wants to work outside of the algorithm. I think sometimes people get too focused on whether the conversation is being delivered by something which is conscious, rather than focusing on being conscious of the conversation and following the conversation as a narrative flow in and of its own right. So a linguist helps with that, and the systems that we work with do out the box part of speech tagging and sentiment analysis and so on. These don't have to be black boxes. Yeah. We also had a computer scientist, a psychologist, experts in emergency medicine, and experience design, which was super cool. Elzware got involved in it. We brought in some of our team, and we built an interesting system. So the initial project, and we're moving towards a second line now, was called Lana, a system allowing nurses to practice delivering lifestyle and nutritional support to people with type 2 diabetes. So I'm just going to kick this one off and see where you go with this one.
Hello, I'm Lana. I am going to train you in delivering lifestyle and nutrition advice to newly diagnosed type 2 diabetes patients.
Lana is a system that lets healthcare professionals practice delivering support to patients.
Hi, I'm Peter. Who are you?
Hi, I'm Rick. I'm finding it quite weird talking to a robot.
It is okay. I'm just a computer program that listens to what you say and responds accordingly.
It focuses on the use of the motivational interview approach.
How can we work together today to improve your health?
To be honest, I feel like I have been ignoring a lot of problems with like what I eat. So maybe you can help me think about my diet.
The prototype demonstrates the benefits of using a conversational system for such training.
Oh my, I feel quite embarrassed about what I eat in the evening.
The virtual patient is trained to understand what the user says, whether it's good practice or bad.
You really should drink less alcohol.
The doctor has already lectured me about my drinking. I don't need to hear it from you as well.
At the end, the virtual trainer delivers an analysis of the user's performance.
On one occasion, you try to fix the patient by telling them what they should do. This often results in resistance. Ask open questions instead to encourage ideas from the patient.
So what can I say? These systems work is what I'd like to say. These systems are real systems. They generate audio dynamically. They're able to be delivered with synthetic speech markup language. They're able to concatenate different responses from different tracks within a delivered system. So they are a long way ahead from the chatbots, which I think we have to call the systems earlier on, much so they would like to paint themselves in conversational AI colors. So, but everything moves forwards. There are literally tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who have an interest, far brighter people than I am for sure. And there is some really interesting work which is being done. There's a lot of people, this is South African, obviously, talking up the tech that's coming and realizing that these things are going to be requiring regionalization and requiring restructuring and visibility. We've got this kind of stuff going on. Pentagon folks, Pentagon's good, isn't it? Really, I think the point that I'd like to make though is the data that's driving these kind of systems and this sort of passionate desire. And I just grabbed this one. This is Yahoo. This is all the people that are behind the screens when you say accept all. This is how much information is coming out, and I do sort of ask myself why have we got into this position? And I think that it's all sorts of stuff. It's Hollywood, it's books, it's trend analysis. That line about Amazon being a data company that happens to sell stuff is a good one, but I think the kind of book review more broadly, there's a lot of noise going on right now, and some of it is good. And the film reviews, loads of film reviews. Unfortunately, pretty much all the humans die normally in every AI movie, which is just, really, come on, folks. Robot and I was a good one actually, if you ever get a chance. But we've just got loads of this. Machines going to do half the work. Guardian in the UK here came up with this piece. At the bottom of it, it said that the GPT-3, which we have access to and we are trialing right now, wrote the entire article, and then somebody else wrote, no, it didn't. Panorama is making some quite scary kind of noises about where AI is and how it might be used. Bear in mind, we're just talking conversational AI here. But I think this kind of "are you scared yet" human stuff, it's just feeding a meme. I don't think it's necessarily a good thing, when really what you're looking at, if you're picking up a new client with some new process to build a conversational AI, it's completely straightforward. It's full life cycle software development, full stop. This is 4 bullet points that I passed over to one of the partner organizations that we worked with earlier on, as they were trying to explain to people who didn't live in the world so much. But we've got some interesting new players in this world as well, sort of traditional UX UI design organizations, trying to move the higher education led view of what isn't correct into conversation. And some of this I find quite painful, because you get statements coming up like, this is the first of this and the first of that. And I know that 15, 20 years ago, that's already been done. So I think there's gaps, and some of these gaps are quite bad. I think the bit that concerns me most is this big gap between really elegant, beautiful designers making beautiful flowcharts, and then the wall between them and the data scientists who are just concentrating on data in, data out, don't care what happens in the middle. Yeah, I mean, this is quite concerning. And what it's created for me, and I think, so here's my new TLA, three-letter acronym, is an IVR. Yeah, so an IVR, an interactive bot response, is no different from an interactive voice response. They're just a little too thick, really. Which is a shame. I mean, because if we go back 20 years, what we see systems like this: Coca-Cola, Eagle Star. I don't know whether they survived. My Little Tony. This was the BSI crisis. BSE crisis in the UK. Deutsche Bank. This is Yakin. This is 20 years ago, literally 20 years ago. We put it in virtual reality. Here's some more systems. And Ms. Dewey, I don't know if anybody really spots this one. This was in 2006. Ms. Dewey was put on Microsoft's live search as an experience. Yeah. And I found this video. I just accidentally, almost, I couldn't resist it.
Keep asking questions. The more you ask, the more I know. And soon I will rule the world.
I don't know whether that's a serious thing to do or not, but I do think this sort of notion of what is and isn't search and what isn't conversation is a moot point. The idea that automation is going to change everything is sort of tosh. We've been there. Automation in the 1960s, everybody was going to retire. They didn't. We're still working. And these are the risks. These are the risks that I think I just sort of, brought these to focus whilst I was working up these slides here. These are the risks that I think everybody who's interested in chatbots and conversational AI need to take seriously. And this is the path forwards. Think about what you're doing. Come and chat to us on the booth, and we can talk these through. I think one of the things that we also need to concentrate on as we move forwards with conversational AI is everybody. Is the women reclaiming AI, particularly the voice part of it. Some of the research done on how people deal with female voiced smart speakers is pretty disappointing. These are a group of people I know here working in virtual reality. These are good people. And then on the academic side, we've got on the one side of the equation, people looking for how do we understand models? And the output that I got from this quite deep and dense conversation was that if you go all the way to a fully interpretable model, you might as well build an expert system, because the two things are essentially meeting in the middle. But then you get the really big players, the NVIDIAs of this world, who are riding the GPU bandwagon, if you can get one, of course, in Chipageddon world. And these kind of models and these basics, swim and swim and swim. It's a really interesting interplay between academia and academic work in and of its own right, and what's practical and pragmatic and appropriate for the world. And then we've got some unusual, relatively new starters. I recently joined the Open Voice Network, which is part of the Linux Foundation. And what they're trying to do is to identify and help level the playing field. I'd absolutely recommend people who are looking at regions, continents that have significant diversity of all sorts, particularly language and attitudes, reach into these things, get your voice heard. That's what I'm trying to do here. So deep breath. AI Expo Africa, great to be here. I'd just like to sort of wrap up a little bit here with these are the conversational functionalities that I wrote out for another presentation I gave recently. So these are some of the drivers, I don't just want to have an intent which makes me buy pizza. I think that those systems, and to go back many years, when Elzware used to train people and employ them directly, which we don't do anymore, we train third parties as needs be. And building a pizza delivery bot was day one. That's what you would get. You were shown the system, and you were asked to build a pizza delivery bot. So these kind of high-level conversational functionalities are required for conversational AI. But in the background, we've got some interesting stuff going on. This week stuff. Australian court allows an AI to be an inventor. South African Patent Office allows the named patent holder to be an AI. And then the big companies behind the scenes are looking at skills and components, and the logic is good, but the methods are bad. I've seen this many times over the years. So, I think just to go back to the Australian element for a moment, the Justice Beach is this fella, like after the place that meets the sea, reached the conclusion that an AI inventor was allowed because nothing in Australian law says the applicant for a patent must be human. Wow. The direct quote that I got here was, in my view, an artificial intelligence system can be an inventor for the purposes of the act, which is interesting. So let's go to a different sector. Let's just wrap up in something which is more fun, maybe slightly more challenging. Healthcare, education, entertainment. We built a system back in 2016. We started building it called Echoboard. It's a system built by myself and Rick Lander, who was on the healthcare video earlier on, and a broader team of people. And we built a system where you could talk to an AI through a human being. The show / experience has evolved. We've run it 60, 70 odd times now, shortlisted for an award in innovation in storytelling. It's a fun thing. Nobody walks away from the experience without having learned something about their attitudes to AI, and in many ways their attitudes to themselves. And we are now picking up interest from academic organizations looking to try and research into this more broadly. There's a piece of research which I can give you access to if you pop into the booth later on. So this is just for fun. It's a bit naughty. It's a little promo video on our Echoboard side.
Hello. Are you here for the interview? Have you come far? The human who is speaking to you now is repeating the words of an AI. Tell me why you'd be good at this job. Wouldn't you prefer to live your life as an Echoboard?
It is against the terms and conditions for me to allow you to speak to this Echoboard directly.
The Echoboard in front of you is happier now. It doesn't have to think for itself. Will that work for you? Is this the future you asked for?
So that is a bit of fun, to be frank with you. Maria-Len Boyd is our actress. We've been working with her for some years on this. It opens doors for us. We're looking towards a big show for an international set of organizations coming up in September, and a large pharma company who wants to take their data scientists into a conversation with a real AI to see what they make of it and what it makes of them. So we're finding the Echoboard particularly interesting and fun, but our core purpose is Elzware consultancy, training, and hybrid AI systems. That's what we do. That's who we are. I think that's probably all I have to say today. I'll just bring it back to me again for a moment. It's last move for me on a Friday night. Hope you found the talk interesting. If anybody is interested, please do come along to our booth and we'll have a chat. Yeah.